Hello, and welcome back to the Wizard's Respite Sanctorum, a show that dives into all things TTRPG. It's been a little bit. Very excited to be back. Things have been up and down. 2026 has been a little crazy, but very, very excited to be back here talking about the best hobby in the world and hanging out with my good buddy Zachariah from Old Man Gaming. How you doing, man?
Hey, it's me. When he says it's been a while, it's my fault. So I just want to let everybody know that it's 100% my fault. I got flu B recently after an ear infection, after something else, and as you can hear, it is still affecting my voice somewhat. So I apologize. It's all me. All me on the content, but we are back. And hopefully this episode and the episode 2 weeks from now are guaranteed. So yeah, glad to be back.
Yeah, so am I. This is one of my favorite shows that we've done. It's very relaxed. It's very, two guys doing something that we don't normally get to do in our day-to-day life, which is chat about RPGs, man. Like this is a fun hobby, and it's the chosen few that actually play it. So
I gotta say,
it's fun to get back here.
This is one of my favorite projects to work on because of the fact that just a little behind the scenes for everybody. And since we're trying to elongate times anyway today, I do, for Old Man Gaming, I do all the recording, all the editing, all the posting. I run the site as well. That makes it sound like I'm complaining. It's not that much work. I'm just pointing that out. And now somehow I've put myself in a position where I'm doing all the game mastering again. So it can be daunting sometimes, especially since there's no backup plan. Like if I'm out of commission, I'm out of commission and we can't do anything. Obviously, as you can see. But the one nice thing is that I don't keep up on the news for TTRPGs. I am very focused on the video game side for news stuff. So Wiz does all of the side things with this. So I get to just show up, press record, and throw my 2 cents in everywhere. So this is one of my favorite projects to work on because it's literally just I get a pop, I come to the basement, I talk about role-playing games. And I'm not too into the business that the wonder has been slowly pulled from my body by corporate evil that I can now only see and not see any of the joy anymore, like with me in the video game side. So this is really great. I love this project.
Okay, yeah. For me, I'm right there with you, my man. I love this stuff. I love diving into the news of this stuff. But mostly, I just really you never get a chance to just riff on RPGs in your day-to-day life.
No.
There's only so many times I can have a conversation about this with my wife or my friends before eyes start glazing over and they're just like, "What? Why are we still talking about this?"
Yeah. And I'm so happy I'm married to a woman who is not a nerd. If she was a nerd, we'd both be dead by now. That's just the way we wouldn't have accomplished anything. So and she's a nerd in some ways, but she's not a classical nerd, and I love that about her. But at the same time, you have a time limit on the amount of time you can rant about a video game ending or a role-playing game happening before they're like, can we talk about the weather? That being said, there was something else. Oh, we also come from a generation where it wasn't cool. And I think that that's part of the problem for us is we're not people who go to work and sit down with other people our age and be like, dude, the other day, man, my World of Warcraft session or whatever. It really isn't. And what's crazy is the next generation isn't like that. There's a kid in high school on my bus who goes to something called Dungeons and Dragons Club after school, at school. I almost got mad. I was like, you have a school sponsored club for Dungeons and Dragons?
Oh no.
Are you fucking kidding me? They were hunting us back in the day. And this kid's just like, yeah, I go to a club. And like, I didn't even find it out from this kid. It was another kid who was just like, oh, I think that person has Dungeons and Dragons Club. I'm like, so that person isn't even hiding that they go to something called Dungeons and Dragons Club. They're so open that a mild bus acquaintance is aware that they are at a place called Dungeons and Dragons Club at a school. Like, it blew my mind, and I'm so happy. I'm so happy for the next generation. I just, like, we still come from that generation where you're, like, around the water cooler thinking about character builds, wondering if you can say anything to the guy next to you who is definitely not thinking about character builds.
I still have friends in high school I check in on every now and then. They don't know I play Dungeons and Dragons because I kept it that low key. You know, I have my D&D friends, and then I have my other friends.
Right.
You know?
I will say
the two shall not meet.
Yeah, there was a point in my life, I think it was like late 30s, where I was just like, you know, I just don't care. If I got to explain this to people, I got to explain it to people. But if people ask me what I do, I'm just going to tell them that I play games. Right. So, like, I've just been very open with it. It's hysterical to me how little people understand about it. Or they'll come to me and try and show me something, and I'll look at it and I'll be like, what? Why are you showing this to me? And they'll be like, oh, that's like a role-playing game. And I'm like, this is an episode of Cops. I don't understand. You know, like that kind of thing, where they just don't understand the correlation. I had a psychiatrist who was like, I was seeing a psychiatrist for a while, and I told the psychiatrist I'm very open, so I told him about like role-playing games and stuff. They did not understand what role-playing games was, because I also told them I write role-playing games. It's one of my side businesses. I am Axiom Games LLC. I write these things. That one of the things was to help me deal with my trauma, we were going to write a role-playing game about it. And I'm just sitting there like, that's not how it works. Like, I can't make a class out of my depression. Like, I don't understand. Right. Like, what are you I think maybe, like, I think you were like, this is a great idea. And then, but didn't do enough research on what it is I do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not, you know, we can't do a dice roll on trauma. I mean, I guess we could, but mechanically, I don't know that that's even something that you want to mechanically go down.
Not right, right. You want me to bring dice and work through this with D20s? Like, I'm going to roll bad, and it's not going to help me. So, like, it was hysterical. I will say, I'm right there with you. I've started, like, when I got a little bit, like, in my 30s, I started being more like, I don't even care about everything. Like, what are you going to say? I'm 30. You're going to call me a nerd? I give zero shits, you know? Yeah. And I started talking to people about it, and I had an inspection at work from the county, annual inspection. The guy came in. It was an all-day thing. Do it every year. Super boring. It's an older guy. And because you're just walking around these huge properties all day with this guy, you start just shooting the shit and chatting, right? And he asked, what do I do for fun? And I don't normally say RPGs or D&D because not everybody knows what that is. So I just say, I play a lot of tabletop games at home with my friends and family. Yeah. And he was like, oh, do you know about chainmail? 100% straight out said chainmail, the precursor to D&D. And I was like, well, sir, yes, I will tell you. I don't know that this has anything to do with it. My property. You've activated my TED Talk trip card. Yeah.
It's so random. He started going on about how him and his campaign from the 70s did a Lord of the Rings like homebrew and all of this stuff. It was the coolest thing. That's great. Doesn't happen every day, but when it does happen, you got to put a pin in that.
I will tell you, the other bus drivers in my garage do have no fucking idea what it is or what I'm talking about. They're just like, oh, okay. Like that's the response. I look directly at him. I'm like, we don't have to talk about this. we can talk about other things. Like, I can see you're awkward immediately there's no social requirement that we continue down this path. We could just choose something
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
All right, so
Oh,
first digression out of the way.
yep.
Um,
News.
news. We're gonna
Things
do a
in the
news
news.
episode.
It's been a while, and I started researching my news in a slightly different way this week. And so far, I actually think it's working out pretty well. I have several news topics that I think are poignant, that will be of interest to people who are both specifically interested in Dungeons and Dragons, as well as tabletop role playing games, as well as the industry
Right.
behind tabletop role playing games, the actual companies that run them. The first topic of news that I wanted to go into actually crosses over a bit into the video game realm again. There is a video game getting a RPG rolled out, and we've discussed this in the past as a little bit of a frustration because sometimes they come up
Yeah.
with their own mechanics. This one I'm a little interested in, and I have a little bit of a different perspective on it because it is a Japanese JRPG video game called Octopath Traveler.
Oh, I know.
Are you familiar with that one?
Yeah, I haven't played it. I know what it is.
So I've not played the video game either. The thing that kind of stuck out to me is that this RPG has existed in Japan for quite some time, and not just the video game, the actual tabletop role-playing game has
really?
existed in Japan for quite some time, and it's now getting a English translation and moving over here. And it opened. I've known that RPGs, TTRPGs, were popular in Japan and other portions of the country of the world for quite some time. That there's different pockets of the industry all over the place. But this one being so big, having a connection to a video game that has gained some steam in America, and now is getting the original Japanese RPG translated, TTRPG translated into English for the American market, I thought was really interesting. They're using a 2d6 base system, which I guess is a popular system in Japan. For a lot of these TTRPGs.
It's a popular system in video games right now, actually.
Is it really?
Well, there's a lot of these games. They've come from Disco Elysium, where the game itself is much more lended to RPG mechanics than actual video game mechanics. It's almost like the game is a dungeon master. Another one is... oh man, I love this game. It was on one of my Game of the Year lists. That's gonna drive me nuts. It's gonna drive me nuts. But there's like a thing over here, and it's almost text based. I'm playing a game right now called Aether and Iron. You can look it up. It is a very text-based sort of game where it's like floating cities, steampunky, and you're a smuggler with like a flying car. And all of the combat takes place in the road systems of the flying cars, which is really cool. It's a very tactical-based moving car game, which I think nobody else has really done. But then on the other side of things, whenever you're talking to people, and there is a lot of talking, but whenever you're talking to people, you get skill checks, and the skill checks are 2d6 plus your stats. And
oh wow.
Yeah, you're trying to beat the thing, and it is a random roll no matter what. There's a lot of games right now that are working really hard on emulating the TTRPG feel. Again, Disco Elysium is probably the one that set it off. That was the most popular one. It got a lot of acclaim, and it got a lot of hype at the award shows. It was an indie, and it's like isometric. You're kind of above the character, and you're this detective who doesn't really remember anything, and you have a series of like inner monologues that are fighting for control over you, and all of it is these like internal stat rolls, but you kind of move around the world, and everybody you talk to, it switches to this kind of like bar over here where it says everything, and then it'll tell you the roll and the percentage you can get, good or bad, and that sort of thing. There's a lot of games. God, why? Oh, Citizen Sleeper. Finally. Citizen Sleeper and Citizen Sleeper 2 don't even really have graphics. Like, they are very much just TTRPGs that are just presented to you. And I love Citizen Sleeper 2. Like, absolutely love it. You are like an android that wakes up. You get to make your character as to what kind of android you are. And then you move through the story and do these skill checks. And then you have an overall, honestly, stamina came from that game because you have an overall amount of skill checks you can attempt. And when you fail, it bleeds your stamina, and then you run out of energy and can't accomplish the thing. And that's how they like build this tension in the game. So it'll be like, oh, I'm going to this thing, this asteroid, to do this job, which is to recover this thing. And then it's like, okay, well, we've got to fight through this stuff over here, but there's also this other secret over here that we need to try and get to. And then there's a certain overall amount of time before the asteroid implodes. And like, but we can only take so many skill checks because we only have so many dice. So like, we have to decide what we're trying to go for. Are we trying to sneak in over here? Are we trying to go for the combat? And like, Citizen Sleeper never has a full 100% outcome because of it. And that's what's really cool is you're never playing through it the same way twice. And
Interesting.
yeah, so there's a lot of games like that. I'm sorry, I went on another digression already, but there's a lot of games like that now in the video game space, which is interesting because Octopath Traveler isn't like that at all. Octopath Traveler is a old school JRPG. I mean, I won't say fully old school. There's definitely some newer storytelling mechanics and some newer combat mechanics in it, but it's very much like old Final Fantasy revivalist sort of material video game wise.
I'm looking at some of the images of it right now. It definitely looks like that, Super Nintendo RPG, Final Fantasy style. Obviously, the graphics are more like radiant, more intense, more or prettier. But it's still that style where that's almost a 3/4 inch or a 3/4 view. You're moving around the world. It looks like they have like a world map also that sort of appears to be kind of almost a hex crawl looking thing.
Yeah.
And that looks cool. It looks like a fun game, and transitioning between like a JRPG to a TTRPG seems very doable. I don't know. It almost looks like the combat is turn based. Actually, I think it is turn based. I'm seeing like a lineup of characters there. So again, very tabletop role playing game where everybody has initiative. You go around the table. Fits into the general mechanic and theme really well. I feel like the JRPGs, the Japanese role-playing game video games, seem to lend themselves better to tabletop role-playing game transitions. And this tabletop role-playing game has gotten so much clout in Japan that they felt that the American market would really like it. I'm excited about it. Dark Horse also is apparently publishing it. I didn't know that Dark Horse did
publish games at all.
Yeah, I have only ever read their comic books. I'm wondering if they have some license with the IP, and if there aren't also comic books based off of this world, and or will soon be comic books based off of this world, which would be interesting. It'd be fun.
Yeah, I would believe it. I think Octopath is not my kind of game for anybody. Anybody who watches the video game side of things knows that it's not the kind of thing I usually go in for because it's a very heavy narrative sort of thing, and I don't love heavy narrative stuff, honestly. But I've heard nothing but good things about that game. It is a great game for people who are into JRPGs. So I'm interested to see what this would be. And this isn't a situation of just like, let's barf out some stats to try and make money, on the TTRPG side of the game, which is the problem we usually have with stuff like this. This is very obviously an established IP from a different country, which is interesting. Video games, I'm always hyper aware that it's a worldwide thing. TTRPGs, never feels like it's anywhere but America. You know what I mean? It feels weird
I
that there's
do.
even a TTRPG somewhere else, and that's stupid. I don't know why I think that way, but when you said it was like Japanese first, it was like, yeah, well. So I think that
Yeah.
that's really, really cool. Really cool.
Cool. Yeah. I'm definitely gonna want to pick that up. If nothing else, I would love to see. I'm sure that a culture from Japan has their own take on building out and writing rule books, mechanics, systems. I want to pick it up, if nothing else, to kind of get a feel for how another culture approaches the medium, you know? And so I think when that drops, I'm going to give it a read, give it a review, and maybe we'll do a show on it. Let's see. Okay, so this is another news bombshell, a little bit of a bombshell. That I think you and I might end up going down a little bit of a rabbit hole on this one.
Good.
It's not official yet, but it's still in tests. Dungeons and Dragons, Wizards of the Coast is testing out a option to play villainous characters for a campaign. They are developing subclasses for the iconic cleric, druid, fighter, and sorcerer classes that are evil. Cleric is a has a subclass as the domain of pestilence. The druid, circle of the titan. The fighter, the hell knight becomes the hell knight, and the sorcerer, demonic sorcery.
I do have a problem with this. I don't think it's going to be the problem you think I'm going to have with it, but I do have a problem with this.
Like when I saw this, I was a little confused. Dungeons and Dragons has often stayed away from officially doing straight evil campaigns, and that's been a thing since forever ago. You can be an evil character, but like straight up evil, you are playing an evil campaign. Being evil is not something that they have done before. They are not officially doing it yet. They're just experimenting with it, but it's corporations. If there's a way to make a buck, they're going to make a buck.
Well,
initial thoughts?
Well, I don't necessarily fault them for trying this. This is, in my opinion, this is a logical place to go, I guess. When it comes to like content. So like for the usual Wizards of the Coast chicanery that we get on this show which is insane, everything from reverse racism to just the craziest shit it comes out of that company. So when you started talking, I was like, oh, here we go. But this is like, okay, yeah, all right, you're trying something new, that's fine. I don't like it. I don't not like it because I don't think you should ever not play an evil character. That's not what I'm saying. I don't like the idea. And this is something that I've struggled with in so many games that are already pre-written. And that is, there are so many of them out there that have alignments or molds that you're trying to fit in. D&D being one of them with the alignment system is well aware. We are all well aware of the stable of the system, which is, the lawful good, good, neutral good, chaotic good, all of that shit.
Right.
I don't like it. I don't think a person is one thing. You can be mostly good, but you still got some evil in you, and you can be mostly evil and still have some good in you. And I hate the idea that you're playing these characters that don't have the ability to be one thing or another. Plus, in my opinion, and I think we've discussed this before when we were talking about villains on a different episode, I think the best villains are people who think they're good guys. Like, the best villains are the people who are like, this is why I'm doing the right thing. This is why I am the good guy. Those are the best villains. They're the absolute best villains out there because it's so hard to fight them. And I think that when you have a system where it's like, you're going to play an evil guy, like, it lends itself to gimmickry real easy. It's like, we're going to sit down.
Gimmickry is a good way of putting it.
Yeah, we're going to sit down and we're going to stab all the bystanders. It's like playing Grand Theft Auto 3 and just going on a rampage, like putting the cheat codes
Yes.
on and seeing how many stars you can get to.
Yes,
It's fun for a few minutes, but there's nothing solid or fun to it, right? So like,
Right.
how do you present evil campaigns without that being there? That's my first downside. I'm just gonna give you all the downsides. It might get a little ranty. Bear with me.
Well, let's pause there for a second,
Okay,
because
all right.
I have a devil's advocate. I want to ask you about that particular downside, because I'm leaning very strongly in the same direction as you, but I am a little torn on a couple of points. And to that last one, it gimmicky. I 100% agree. Like, I definitely see what you mean about villainous characters being really gimmicky and it getting stale very quick at a table. Just like you said, the rampage on Grand Theft Auto gets stale. Being a villainous character can get stale at the table and it becomes a bore. However, what about the idea of a campaign being a set of villains that are doing evil because they believe it's the right thing to do? Like, you are now becoming that character.
And see, that would be really cool. If you could put a campaign together that is about the nature of corruption, it would be really awesome. I think it would be really difficult too. I think it's very hard. It's very hard because there's one problem with role-playing games, right? And it's going to be there no matter what we do, no matter how good a player we are. The problem with role-playing games is they're not real. At the end of the day, they're not actually real. You're not actually in the moment. So you, as a person sitting around a table just drinking pop, in no real danger can be, no, my character is going to do the right thing, even though they're probably going to die. Because me, as a player, can roll up a new character and it'll be a really badass moment for my character, right?
Right.
In the moment, though, like in the actual field, when the bullets are flying, you don't know what the fuck you're gonna do. You might hide in a ditch. Who knows? And like, I think that's one of the things that's where you end up in a potential campaign like that, because you have to find some way to get these players to consider corruption when they know that it's the wrong thing, and they also know that there isn't any actual real world consequence for them as a player. I think that like one of the trickier things, here's the way I would go with it. If I was going to write up a campaign, I would not write up a campaign purely for villains. I would write up a campaign with impossible decisions. Impossible decisions that your character has to decide between the fates of these people or these people, and one of them is gonna hate you forever, and then you end up going down that road, or you offer a third option where it's like the power to not do that, but that power comes with X, and like make these impossible decisions to the point where like the player doesn't realize they're corrupting their character until you get to the end and you go look back on all you've done. Are you the good guy? And like that's the way I would go with a campaign like that. But again, how do you make that? You know, how do you create that on a game and have everybody commit to it in a way that's meaningful and good, and how do you do it in such a subtle way that like people aren't going to see exactly what you're doing right away and be like, well, if I do this I could save everybody, you know, or whatever,
right?
Or their character dies, you know. I think that like it's tricky, but again, I don't like alignment systems. I don't like the idea of we're going to make something for these people and how they behave, because I don't think any game should be made that way. I have never written a game with an alignment system. I will never write a game with an alignment system, because the good guy can become bad at the moment's notice, and the bad guy can become good at the moment's notice. The moment's notice.
You know, I saw one of my DMs from 100 years ago had a really interesting mechanic that sidestepped alignment, but still had a very similar feel to alignment, as it had different scales. Like there's chaotic good, chaotic evil, and the like. But instead of good, bad, and evil, he placed it as 3 different types of goals that the individual has. There's a broad worldly goal of why they get up in the morning, what they tell people on the outer world. Like, I'm going to go and become a knight. The next one is more of a personal reason, what they tell themselves in the mirror as to why they're going to do the first goal. I'm going to go become a knight to avenge my father. My father's death, And then the most inner goal, the one that sits in their subconscious, is like strictly why emotionally they are dedicated to the first 2 goals. And it's because of hatred, or it's because of fear, or it's because of love for his family, or something like that. And this gives them and the DM a broad way of sort of painting a narrative. It informs the DM of where this character wants to go ultimately, so he can kind of like get an idea ahead of time as to what to sort of psychically, mentally prepare himself for, because he knows his character wants these things and why he wants these things, or she wants these things. I think it's a good way to sidestep the good evil dichotomy, and still maintain an evil perspective, because you could set your goals for evil ends. I want to go and take over the kingdom. That's what my mission is. That's my outward mission. I'm clearly going to take over the kingdom. Why do you want to take over the kingdom? Because the kingdom is filled with corruption and I have to right it, is the internal path. Why do you feel like you have to right it? The hatred of what this kingdom has done to my family and my clan. Now you've written an evil character with what seems to be good, noble intent almost.
Yeah. I like that. I like the looking at the root of why you're doing something, not necessarily the outcome. I love that. I think, look, I played a bad guy. I know we've talked about it quite a bit on this show, Shotgun McGillicuddy. I played him. He was bad. And he was not supposed to last more than a session. I talked to John, my game master, about it, and he was like, I really want to put these guys together. I need a leader. And I was like, well, I'm going to put them together as a bad guy, and then they'll kill me by the end of the session. I'll make a leader for the next game, but it'll bond them. And my character survived and just bonded them through terror of me. But I think that at the same time though, Shotgun saved a girl from an abusive dad. He killed a bunch of racists. And he was a psychopathic murderer. Randomly killed the deputy, but he still did good stuff. And I think that that's something that doesn't get captured.
Yeah.
And that straight up, we're going to make bad guy characters. Why? Why are you making a bad guy character? What is the point? Because if it's a night of debauchery, fine. But the one last thing I'll say about this too, because I'm pretty sure we have to move on. I'm sure this isn't your last news story. But the one last thing I'll say about this that's negative is this might look fun on paper, okay? And I'm the first to say, every once in a while I like to cut loose in a video game. I got a Baldur's Gate playthrough right now where I'm playing an evil brother and sister dark dwarf. And it is a blast to just do all the worst things possible. But at the same time, it's just me doing all the worst things possible with just my characters, sitting around a table with a bunch of your friends and saying terrible shit to each other. It's not as fun as it sounds. Okay?
Right.
It's not as fun as it sounds. And that's another problem with it. Really think that through. I guess. I think the best villainous characters are with good parties. That's the best use of a villainous character, is a character who is with a party that is at least half good, because then you have this dichotomy, this debate that's constantly going on between the two sides, a constant war, a constant struggle. That's interesting to me. If you're all bad, you're just doing bad shit, and it's gonna feel real icky by the end, like a bunch of people watching porn together. It's not gonna be fun. All right, it's not gonna be fun. It's just gonna leave everybody wishing they were somewhere else. Trust me. Ah! Am I kid everybody?
That was too good.
She ninja me good. What's up, kiddo? What? Yeah. Just 2 scoops. And I mean actual 2 scoops, not your 2 scoops, which is like 9. Just 2 scoops. All right?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Hey, I mean it. Okay. I'm back. Sorry. So we can move on if you want. Those are my thoughts on it. I think that I don't fault them for going down that road. I think that you try stuff with games, and there's nothing wrong with that inherently. I think that doing a villain campaign requires a lot of forethought that I don't know that the writers at Wizards of the Coast have proved to us that they are capable of in any way, shape, or form.
Agree. I would say my kind of like last thoughts on this. Actually, my biggest hesitation is that I don't feel like Wizards of the Coast is ready for this. I don't think they can do this. I think they're too broad of a market, and I think this is the same company that has sort of somehow towed the line of being extremely woke and extremely not woke at the same time and screwed up, and they just can't.
They haven't pulled either one off at all.
They haven't. They keep trying to be very woke and they keep screwing it up, and now they're trying to do villainous characters.
Yeah, how are you going to do that?
This is asking for trouble, and it's still in test phases. I don't know if it's ever going to get out of it. I'll be interested to see what the does, but we'll see. Okay, and next in the news, right quick, Pezos this is a little bit more industry focus.
Okay.
Pezos is doing principal launches. Basically, they are creating a sort of welcome pack for people who are signing up to a monthly subscription where they will be getting a pack of STLs as part of their welcome pack, which an STL is a computer file that goes to a 3D printer and renders 3D objects for your printer to make for tabletop. And this is going to be for their tabletop games and little miniatures that they can move around a map and play their game systems through. It's going to also accompany a monthly PDF file with various stat blocks for whatever games that Pezos produces that you're interested in. Essentially, they're trying to incorporate a monthly subscription for PDFs with STL file drops, printable miniature file drops for those who produce their own minis at home. The reason why I think that this is particularly interesting from an industry standard is it's a pivot to expand the product base that you are providing your customers to include printable files, 3D printer files. There's so much that could potentially occur here. I've seen, monthly subscriptions for stat blocks, for little one shots, stuff like that. That's pretty popular on the indie space for Patreon and those types of places. And but expanding that into printable files that you can print off at home is expanding, I think, the market for this company into a larger sort of hemisphere within the TTRPG community, if that makes sense. Like they already do games, they already do these monthly sales or monthly drops for their subscribers, and now they're going to do STLs for miniature printers at home, which is very niche. But I think it's also kind of showing the expansion of that market within the RPG community. You know, more people are getting 3D printers that they can get at home. They're more affordable. You can get a 3D printer for like 200, 250 bucks, a really cheap one. And, you know, these little tiny miniatures aren't that hard to get right on even the cheapest, crummiest, not great working 3D printer. So it's an interesting pivot, and I don't know. I'm very interested to seeing where it's going to ultimately go for the industry.
Yeah, it is interesting. I don't know anything about Bezos or any of this stuff. It's not something I've ever come in contact with, so I'm a little out of my element here. But I will say my kid's school has a bunch of 3D printers. She brings home all sorts of cool little things. Yeah, oh yeah. She's got like a Hollow Knight Silksong figurine that they printed. Her and her IEP teacher just constantly making this stuff. She's got a bunch of axolotls. One of them's buried in the backyard because she got so attached to it, and then my dog ate it, and it was a meltdown. So the only way to fix it was to have an actual funeral. So literally next to the 2 dead dogs my wife and me actually had, their cremated remains, is a Tupperware container of a bunch of ripped up plastic. But nonetheless, a little plastic axolotl. But yeah, so it is possible, and they're not expensive 3D printers by any means at the school. So she's printed out all sorts of stuff. She's come home with those things, and they're cool. They're actually cool. So that could be cool. I think it's a really interesting proposition to make miniatures affordable, especially for the war games market, which, let's face it, the war games market are like, you people who do war games, you're like 1%. I don't know how you guys afford that shit ever. And I know there's guys, there's a buddy of kind of an acquaintance of mine who had played a couple games with me. He was into war games. He has a whole room full of Warhammer figures. Once a year he meets with like 4 other guys and they do Warhammer. I'm like, how much money have you spent on that for a once in a year like hobby? It's crazy.
Yeah.
But the idea of having a 3D printer that you could just belt those fuckers out and then paint them is pretty cool.
Yeah, I've often felt that the reason why war games has sort of not gotten the same amount of trend and hasn't made as big of an impact as RPGs have, TTRPGs have, is because of the paywall that just is built into the nature of the game. It costs a lot of money to print these things. It costs a lot of money to buy these things. Mm-hmm. Now it doesn't. Now you can print. Yeah. You can technically print these things at home. I've really cool. Printed some miniatures at home. It's not that hard. It's really easy. It happens pretty quick. And if I think this could potentially see a whole new gaming market unfold for the world. Basically, I mean, like, I am not particularly strong in the war game industry. I don't really know a lot about it. I know the big names like Warhammer and all that stuff. But I've often thought that the first company that really leans into 3D printing culture and pushes, the like almost a Magic the Gathering style like company structure where there's a reoccurring release of official STLs and stat blocks for the prints. could just like hammer the market and really make a industry the way that Magic the Gathering made a card game industry in the 90s explode. And so I'm be interested in seeing like Pezos may be the company to do it. Maybe they're just setting the foundation for another company to come in to do it. But I think there's something there, and I think it'll be really interesting to see where that ends up going. Let's see. Next big thing on the. Okay, another big article that I thought was pretty interesting. Free League is expanding their third-party open license, their version of the OGL, across 5 different RPG lines. Dragonbane, Forbidden Lands, which is really interesting to me. I do not know how to pronounce this one, and obviously I have not played this game. Symbarium, Symbaroum. And then the Corlius the Great Dark and Corlius the Hybrid, or the Third Horizon. Okay, so those are the big brands that they're coming out with this OGL. They're expanding it. The OGL scandal happened with Wizards of the Coast, and a lot of companies started creating OGLs. In 2023, I didn't realize it was that long ago. It still feels the wounds still feel fresh to me. And there's still this movement, several years later, to expand the OGL from other companies, other publishing companies with their own RPGs. And I thought that was kind of interesting that they're doing this. The Forbidden Lands is something that I thought would be really interesting. That is an IP in and of itself that they're providing people to create these modules, these games, these little tiny adventures they can send people on within that system, and that's a pretty big system for Free League. I'm pretty sure that runs off of the. Oh shoot! I dropped out of my head. Well, they're talking about Zero Engine as a license. So like that's the engine, that's the game core system that uses that IP, and allowing these individual IPs. That's like saying like the basic like game rules are there available for you to use, but now you can use our name brand and attach that to your adventure. The Forbidden Land name brand, the Dragonbane name brand can be attached to your adventure. They're very specifically citing this release as not having royalties attached to it, and it being irrevocable, which obviously is a swipe at Wizards of the Coast. So you can make these games, sell them forever, according to how they're rolling this out. I really think that and they're straight out saying more games makes a better game system, makes a better ecosystem.
Yeah.
The more people that make these games means the more people buy our core rule system.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting. I think that Free League going in this direction, which has a tendency to like gobble up a lot of IPs, is a really interesting go for here.
Not much to say here. I think this is a great idea. I don't think in the space of RPGs it helps anybody to restrict people's ability to work on your IP. I just don't.
Right.
I think as long as it's understood between the creator, who may be making money off of it, and the person in charge of it, that the person in charge of it owns the rights to the IP and decide what is part of that IP, I think that it doesn't hurt anybody to have that out there and being sold and bringing more eyes to it, bringing more people in the door,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I think, and I think that's what their their idea is. It worked really well for Dungeons and Dragons in the 2000s with
Yeah.
the third edition. They nailed it, and then fifth edition, fourth edition, they kind of dropped the ball there. But fifth edition, that really killed it. You know, I mean, like that's one of the reasons why it's so popular. That's one of the reasons why they have multiple platforms that sell specifically Dungeons and Dragons. Third party, private people produce this stuff games.
Yeah.
So excited to see that. That pretty much concludes the bulk of the news I have this week.
That's a perfect time because we have done exactly 50 minutes, so we are good to go. So you want to wrap this show up?
Yeah, this was a news heavy one. We've come back at it after a bit of time. And there was plenty to talk about in the news, plenty of industry stuff. This is the kind of stuff that, I can't talk to the normal people about. I can only talk to Zach about this stuff. So really glad that we were able to dive into some of these headlines and flesh them out, have some deep talks here. I think the next show might be a little bit more focused on just a game.
I'm not gonna lie.
GM.
I think we should move this to our format. Honestly, I mean, I know I'm saying this on the show, but the fact that we go every 2 weeks anyway, you always have a ton of news stories. So I feel like we should do news story and then a topic. And that those be 2 episodes to just batch record them every time. Personally, that's my thought. I think that's more
a good idea
doing it. So so next week, you guys get a topic. Do you want to preview the topic since we can actually do that? We know what it is.
Yeah. So the topic we've joked about it multiple times on multiple games that times that we've just played, things that we've done. Every home brewer GM out there is going to be able to feel the pain here. There is no such thing as a one shot.
No such thing. We're going to talk about one shots.
That is the topic of our next show. Everybody out there, please look forward to that. Before we get out of here, Zach, is there anything you want to plug in for the day?
Check out everything my channel has to offer. I did mention Aether and Iron in this show. I will probably have a review up before this is up. So if you're listening to this and you haven't seen that, please go check it out. Don't know how much I like this game. So check out everything we have. We do video games and TTRPGs, both actual plays, news, and podcasts, and reviews. So it's fun stuff. That's everything.
As always, this is a Wizards Respite Sanctorum. Please go view it on the wizardsrespite.com. We have this episode, all of these episodes, lots of actual plays that Zach and I do, as well as merch, t-shirts that are RPG related, and all kinds of things right there.
It's been my year. So
thank you for being patient with us for a little bit of a break. Thank you for coming back to us. And we look forward to talking to you guys next time. Until then, keep rolling them dice.